Hello and welcome to the Jackcast, your Swansea City podcast. I'm your host, Steve Carroll. We have another guest for you this week. He is a returning guest and we're always delighted to have him on. And I'm delighted to say that Andy Godden joins me this afternoon. Hi, Andy. How are you?
Yeah, cheers, Steve. All good, thanks. Almost Christmas, so just winding down. Yeah.
Sounds good to me. So we've got plenty to discuss tonight. Obviously, we have seen the confirmation of the change of ownership behind the scenes at Swansea City, and we've got 3 games to look back on that were, well, certainly by the Swan standards, quite entertaining, really, because we've seen a lot of games that have been quite dull this term so far, but that wasn't the case this time. But Andy, there is only one place to start, and I can imagine, as a former chairman of the trust, you were not sorry to see Jason Levy and depart the club.
Oh, genuinely heartbroken, mate. Yeah, absolutely. But no, I think I wish I had a bottle of champagne in the fridge ready for it, but sadly I didn't. Although I think we knew it was coming based on some of the rumours coming out of the club. But I think it's, regardless of anything else, I think it's a good thing that the likes of Jason Levy and Steve Kaplan, Jake Silverstein, and all the others have left, because I think since they came to the club in 2016, it's been one sort of mistake after another. Regardless of any thoughts about how the relationship with the trust and all that, I think they've just made mistake after mistake, and I think it's damaged the relationship between the fans and the club. And I think anything that's ever going to improve that would require them to leave, I think. So it's a good first step. So yeah, very welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone's really going to disagree with that. I mean, but what do you make of the deal? Obviously, we've seen the likes of Brett Cravata, Andy Coleman have now come on board. They've been involved previously. I mean, do you think this is going to be a positive for the club? I mean, obviously we're happy about Levian, but at the same time, there is a little bit of unknown now, isn't there, in terms of how things will pan out, as there often is when you see a change of ownership.
But ultimately, we don't know. We don't know what the new world looks like just yet. So obviously we know Andy Coleman's the chairman. He keeps on saying he's the one in charge, he's the one making decisions. But I mean, if we look at the filings of Companies House which have come in over the last week or so they list the people who have significant control there, which usually means they got more than 10% of the shareholding, for example. And that lists Jason Cohen and Brett Cravata as people with significant control, along with Andy Coleman as well. Then there's the whole Levian interview which happened, which is a perler. I mean, I mentioned that the people in control are Cravata and Cohen. So if we think about back to the old people, the old model, you had Levian and Kaplan as the ones with significant control. Now we've got Cravata and Cohen with significant control. So we're basically swapping the players there. There were some various new directors appointed, and apologies for murdering their names shortly, but Georgi Popstefanov and Christopher Snewages, which I think is Polish, or something like that. So my apologies to him. So these and obviously new shareholders and new directors. There's also, of course, Nigel Morris, which isn't listed as one of the people with significant control, but is still, has a decent shareholding. So, if we think back to the old model, we had a lot of people there, a lot of different shareholders, a lot of different stakeholders, a lot of people putting their money in the pot, and now we've got very much the same. So, it's good news. The old lot are gone. Great. Time will tell, I suppose, whether the new lot are any better. But, I guess only time will tell. But I think we have to give them the benefit of the doubt to a degree at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about that Levian interview, and I feel like we can't really let it pass by, can we, without commenting. I mean, the real pearler was about him leaving the club in a better state than when he found it. I mean, the bloke is just trolling us, surely, isn't he? I mean, he can't be serious. I mean, he's insulting our intelligence.
It's genuinely difficult to understand what he means by that, because obviously we were in the Premier League when he came. We were a solid mid-table without really being threatened with any relegation. We had a decent squad. I mean, costs weren't massively under control. We had a squad with some decent assets in it. we were as strong as it gets for a mid-table Premier League club at the time. Whereas now we're not in the Premier League anymore. We generally having a lower league position year on year. The squad is generally weaker season on season. Yeah, it's difficult to know what you mean. I mean, income is barely a quarter of what it was. I mean, we're running at a massive loss and a deficit every season. I mean, on any metric, how could we possibly be seen as stronger? It's bizarre. I mean, there was a lot of bizarre things in that statement, to be honest with you, but that was just one of them.
Maybe just means like we're spending less than what we were before. I always remember watching Mike Bassett, and he comes out after some bad game for England at the World Cup. So let's look at the positives. We didn't pick up any injuries. So thinking it's just completely irrelevant to like what we're saying. But yeah, look, I mean, it just feels completely out of touch. And I was actually surprised that he said anything really. But I mean, Coleman also decided to speak to the press, didn't he, after the takeover had taken place. But I mean, he pretty much dodged most things, didn't he? He just kept trying to say about trying to rebuild the relationship between the fans and the club. You're thinking, well, okay, it sounds good, it needs to happen, but there wasn't a lot of substance in there, was there? And obviously the Paul Watson question was, obviously there wasn't really an answer given to that either, so we didn't really get much out of that either, did we?
No, but I'm not sure what's worse, Levian's blatant untruths or Coleman's lack of substance. I mean, going on to the fan relations thing, if you just go back to Levian for a second, if that's all right. I mean, he mentions he sort of built the relationship with the Supporters Trust that was badly damaged when they arrived. I mean, it was badly damaged because he arrived, the way he arrived, his actions, and I mean, there's so many things that happened after that sale in terms of him reneging on an agreement with the trust, refusing to go to mediation, to stringing out legal action and things like that. So many things, but his statement was bizarre. But Coleman, I think it's a common criticism, isn't it? I think he puts out a lot of puff pieces without a lot of content, with a lot of content or without a lot of real facts to it, or it says all the right things, lots of buzzwords. But I always remember that interview he did with Chris Wathen, which is a great interview, but he just dodged every question, and I think that is something. He's saying the right things in terms of needing to build the relationship with the fans, and it needing to, realizing there's issues there needs to be worked on, which is great. But I think it needs a bit of substance to that, and I think it's really difficult to see how that's going to work, because I think there's a real disconnect, I think, between the fans and the club in some sections, at least. I think we all know people who just simply don't go to games anymore, and how do we bring them back is going to be a big challenge, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you say, I know plenty of people that have stopped going, or certainly don't go as often as they used to. And I mean, you've only got to look at certain gaps in the stadium, haven't you, to determine that is the case. And it is a concern. I mean, especially in this day and age where it's not as hard to be able to watch games as it used to be, for example. Whereas before you'd have to make sure that you were going to games to be able to watch them. But this is the day and age that we live in. But we've got the hope, I think, haven't we, ultimately, that this is going to be positive for the club. I mean, Paul Watson has gone, as I've alluded to now. It does feel as if we've got more assets, doesn't it, as we've discussed when we've had you on here previously. And we should hopefully be a little bit more optimistic. And obviously January now is around the corner. I mean, I suppose a good way to build up a feel-good factor would be, if there is any room in the budget, would be to maybe try and strengthen slightly. I mean, we've struggled for goals this season, maybe not in the last week, but it does feel as if maybe a little bit of strengthening would build up the feel-good factor. Hopefully, maybe even bring one or two fans back as well.
You'd hope so. I mean, I think as part of this new sale, £20 million coming to the club. Now that does coincide with how much the deficit is between our income and our expenditure on an annual basis. But you hopefully that means there's a bit of scope for bringing players in January. It's not the greatest window for that, but hopefully there is. And I think, yeah, I mean, I know people have been quite critical in some signings this summer, but I think generally, I think they've tried to do the right thing. And I think that basically where signings have come in, they've been, for a bit of money, but they've been for younger players where there should be some upside. Hopefully, if we manage to sell them on. So I think but I do think whatever they do is going to take time. The club's been so mismanaged for years and years now, and even as recently as last season, the whole Duff experiment, and we spent a ton of money last season on some absolute duffers. Some of them are still on the books. It's going to take more than a couple of windows to sort this mess out, I think. So, no, I think the fans will need patience. I think. Hopefully they'll be, as you say, we're short of goals at the moment. I think, Novotnik scored a cracker in midweek, and I'm sure we'll get to in a moment. But I think Cullen, Cullen's actually improving game on game for me. But I think we don't have much of a threat up front. So I think that and a number 10, a genuine number 10, like, in the Gylfi mould or something like that, I think will be brilliant. But we need sort of players at the top end, I think. But it's going to be difficult in January, I think. But fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, it always is in January, isn't it? It feels like a difficult window to really recruit in. But hopefully we can do something there. But as I said, we've got some games to look back on as well. I mean, we'll go in chronological order. So we'll start with the one furthest away. The Leeds game. Now, I've got a mate from uni who supports Leeds, and we were having a conversation the other week about I was talking about how good we were defensively, and they were in a sort of similar boat. I did not expect the game to pan out like that, a bit of a 7-goal thriller. It was certainly wasn't dull, but it was slightly gutting, wasn't it? But I mean, we started quite well in the game, didn't we? And obviously we were winning at half time, and there was quite a bit of optimism about that. And I mean, our games with Leeds often seem to be entertaining, don't they? And this was no different.
Well, difference this time is we scored some goals, which is great. But I thought if there were going to be goals, they wouldn't be going in our favour, because we've been pretty low scoring up until now. And if we were going to win, it was going to be a sort of a low scoring game. So when Darwin scored from that, I was quite optimistic, because they hadn't massively threatened to that point. I think we'd been quite comfortable passing the ball around quite well. So to get that goal was great. And I know Leeds are a bit shaky from set pieces, and we do have a couple of good threats from there. But it's a great cross, and Harry Darling's, I think, has been threatening that most of the season, and great connection. How he was unmarked at the back post, nobody in the same time zone, it was an absolute madness. But great for us, and getting that goal was a great start. And I think at that point, I was genuinely quite optimistic for the rest of the game. But it obviously didn't last long, did it?
No, I was similar, really, because we hadn't conceded more than one goal in any game at that point this season, and to get to mid to late November with a start like that is incredibly encouraging, really. But like I say, it didn't last. I mean, it felt like obviously Leeds have equalised, and then we've gone 2-1 up, 2-2, 3-2 to Leeds. I mean, a lot of their goals seem to be quite similar, didn't they? I mean, there was potential for offsides, but I mean, they seem to time their runs well. They just seem to have pace to burn, really, didn't they? I mean, Dan James in particular, I thought was excellent for them, and we haven't really been tested like that all season, I would say, have we? And we did come up slightly short, but I suppose we wouldn't really be the first team to, but they were particularly good going forward, weren't they?
They were, and I think maybe this is a Luke Williams thing in terms of the style he's doing here, but I think he does ask a lot of our fullbacks going forward. And you see Timon, getting forward a bit key as well, seems to be coming inside and going forward as well, which means that does leave the centre halves a bit exposed, and leaves our flanks exposed, which Dan James, I think, made a lot of profit of, and I think Nonto came on, and I think for the last goal, they were all onside pretty clearly. So, but I think yeah, I mean, we try to play a higher line as well, try and press quite high, and I think they broke that quite easily at times, and yeah, I think most of the goals came from that, didn't they? But yeah, no, I think you have to praise the sort of the intention of trying to take them on, but there's probably a bit of naivety in that. Just leaving this defence so exposed as they are. But there's not many leads in the division, are there? There's not many teams with that sort of quality. I mean, we don't have that depth to bring on an Italian international after the second half up front, which they did.
No, I think my major frustration really was that the naivety was right at the end, because at 3-2 I'd sort of given up the ghost really and thought, well, we've played quite well. We're going to come up short. No disgrace in it. Didn't really expect us to equalise. So when we did, obviously I was delighted and thinking this is going to be a great point. Whatever you do now, do not, let this slip, kind of thing. And we've given the ball away cheaply, and obviously it's led to a winner. So I suppose that was a little bit frustrating, really. But I think overall we'd have to take positives from that game, really, didn't we? Because as you say, we took on a side that I'd probably say are the best team in the division, and we were very close to a result. And for a team that's been struggling to score 3 against a side like that, we have to take positives, really, don't we?
I think so. And Bianchini came on up front, and he got a very good goal. I mean, he's got a couple lately. I wasn't a big fan of his earlier performances, but it's happened a couple of times now. He's come on and scored goals. So fair play to him. And no, I must admit, I didn't see the third goal come in. I think we hadn't massively been threatening, but we've been, there or thereabouts. It looked like Leeds were managing the game quite well. But once we got that goal, and score 3 goals against them is excellent. But yeah, I mean, that to concede that one, and from an offside trap as well, where Darwin is about 5 yards behind the rest of them, that's it's not good. We're better than that, and we've been better than that most of the season, in fairness. So you can forgive you can forgive them that. But yeah, it was annoying, because going into injury time, 6 minutes of it, get everyone behind the ball at least. As the midfield needs to be getting back there at least as well and supporting them, and it didn't quite happen. And to concede so quickly as well, that was disappointing. But yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's football. It was not a great way to end the weekend, really, was it? But we had the trip to Derby was next, gave us a chance to recover, and it's fair to say we came out all guns blazing, really, didn't we? Started the game superbly with 2 great goals. I mean, there was a couple of surprises, really, maybe with the team sheet, but Vipotnik was recalled, and he proved his worth straight away, didn't he, with a brilliant goal in the first couple of minutes.
Didn't see that coming, I'll be honest with you.
Neither did I.
It's I think he's had a couple of threatening moments like that, where he looks like he's trying to do the right things, but I mean, hell of a turn on half turn, just leathered it from the edge of the box into the top corner. I mean, nobody saw it. It was a hell of a goal. Nobody saw it coming. But absolutely quality, for a striker play. And no, it's. I think everyone was shocked by it, but no, I mean, if you could do that a few more times, I think everyone would be a lot happier with our depth up front, wouldn't they? And hopefully that'll give him some confidence for the rest of the season. It didn't seem to give him much confidence for the rest of the game, but it's absolutely great control, great ball to him, great touch, great finish, and a great start. And then obviously we scored the second pretty quickly after that, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Vipotnik, it's got to be his best moment in a Swans shirt so far. I mean, there's only his 3rd goal. I think the other 2 were mainly tap-ins, weren't they? That was actually a far more trickier goal, so an encouraging one for him. I mean, as you say, though, that 2nd goal came quickly. We were dominating, really, at this stage, weren't we? I mean, it's a great ball from Cullen to put Ronaldo in, who I've been quite critical of a lot this season, but he's taken it superbly. And we really were dominated at this stage, weren't we? Keeping the ball well, and you could see the natives were getting quite restless as well, weren't they? You were thinking at that point we could go on and win this really comfortably, weren't we?
It reminded me that period of play reminded me of when we started in the Premier League, and I remember going away to Wolves, It was our first season. We went 1-0 up, and we were just passing the ball around the defensive midfield, just sort of passing around them. And the Wolves were going absolutely berserk at the players. And then they charged us. We just played it over the top and scored a goal. It was exactly like that. You could see the crowd getting worked up. Their players were pushed on to do it, and we then, Cullen pulled back, made a cracking run, brilliant through ball. And Ronald with the finish, it was great. And I think if we could do that a lot more, I think it's easier to do that away from home because there's more pressure on our opposition at times. And I think, we used to be great at that, going away from home, keeping the ball, passing it around, and basically frustrating the crowd, which then frustrates the team or affects the team. And it was great to see that happening again. I mean, fair play to Liam Cullen. I think he's kind of thriving in that sort of number 10 role lately, isn't he? Both for club and country. Scored 2 against Iceland, and obviously scored against the Leeds. But I mean, he's created a couple of chances as well. Obviously created that goal. It was a brilliant ball and a brilliant run from Ronald, in fairness. And the finish, and at that point, you're thinking game over, aren't you?
Yeah, I certainly was. I mean, it was very encouraged. I don't think Derby are particularly a good side either, but it really didn't last, did it? The performance. I mean, after that, I mean, it's one of the worst you played, I'd say, all season. That we were just really lackluster. We gave the ball away a lot. We created nothing. But I mean, even there's been a lot of games, where we haven't created a lot. But I can't remember us giving the ball away anywhere near as easily or as often as we did after that, really. And Derby bombarded us, if we're going to be honest. And we were quite lucky to come away with the 3 points, I think, to say the least. It was quite frustrating. I mean, don't get me wrong. When you have days like that and you can get the win, as long as it doesn't happen too often, you'll take it. I mean, if that's your default, I'd be very concerned. But it was disappointing, wasn't it? And a bit unexpected because I think we all expected us to be far better given the start we'd made. But the game just turned, didn't it?
I suppose it was kind of like that Montenegro game away, wasn't it, for Wales, where they scored 2 early and then Montenegro just absolutely battered us. But probably more extreme, I think, as you say, we were so lax in possession, which is unusual. And it was unusual for that game. For the first 20 minutes, so we were great with the ball, but after that, we just couldn't keep it, and just everyone was giving the ball away. And yeah, I mean, we all mock XG a little bit, but if you look at the XG rating for the game, I think Derby were almost 3 goals and we were 0.2, something like that.
It's staggering, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, they had a lot of chances. I mean, the only one they took was from a penalty, but they should have scored more. I think one of the strikers missed a tap in from 2 yards, and he blazed over. They had some other really good opportunities. It's who's to know what would have happened if we gone 2-2? We don't know. But we completely lost the plot after going 2-up. Derby were all over this, and we just couldn't cope with it. And we didn't look like we were going to cope with it, which was worrying. But there are other games this season. I think back to the Millwall one where you dominate and we end up losing. This one we got a bit of a shoe in, but we ended up winning. So it's funny how it goes sometimes, and football doesn't always make a lot of sense. But no, it wasn't the best, but they hang on in there. I think that was a positive, and we battled, and I think Cabango in particular, threw his body into the line a few times, made some absolutely critical blocks at the end. So yeah, I think a hard-earned 3 points, if not entirely deserved, and probably a little bit lucky.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't legislate for a striker missing what's more or less an open goal from 2 yards, for example, can you? So, you take it, but that 9 times out of 10 you don't get away with that one, and it just proved to be our day, really, didn't it? And look, you'll take it, won't you? I think that has to be the way you look at it. I mean, having those 3 points in the bag, then we went into Saturday's game with Portsmouth, obviously a team that have been struggling, haven't won away all season. So I should have really known the writing was on the wall that this might not go as well as hoped. But I certainly didn't expect to be I suppose we were 2-1 down, weren't we? We got a goal back just before the break, but didn't really think that it would pan out that way. But I mean, the visitors, as much as they were winning, other than the 2 chances they hadn't really threatened us a huge amount, did they?
I think Portsmouth are probably the worst team I've seen at this level, probably for a year or two. in terms of quality. I mean, they looked a League One team, didn't they, in terms of their play and their players. But I think one or two players, I think they have brought in, like Murphy, haven't they? Who's the chap, the other chap in the wing? Can't remember his name, but I think he's plays in the Premier League, isn't he? But yeah, they aren't the best, and to give them the time they had for the goals. I mean, defensively, I think both goals are very shoddy. Primarily, I think they both came. The first one came from Quayside. No, I say both came from Quayside, didn't they? I think
the first one obviously was the goalkeeper playing out a pass, and then it went for a throw, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it's very lax, wasn't it, across the board? And I think we looked quite disjointed in many ways. It kind of followed on from Derby, didn't it? From the end of the game, we were giving the ball away too easy. We weren't really creating much with it. I mean, their keeper didn't make any worldies in the first half for sure. And then we just gave a couple of very soft goals away. I mean, Darwin went a bit too far the other side. Timon wasn't covering, and then it was a tapping at the far post, and then. Obviously, that second one, I don't even know how he managed to get through to where he did. He should have been stopped a long time before he actually got near Vigouroux's goal. But I mean, there were two poor goals, I think, for our defence to give away. And at that point, we weren't really threatening. I mean, every expectation to go into half time 2-0 down. But no, again, Cullen again coming back, and I think it was probably the one moment of quality from us in the first half. A decent ball. If Pert couldn't get ahead of the defender, but thankfully, the combination of the ball and the pressure, they're back bundled in, and probably a bit undeserved to get the goal. But I don't think Plymouth deserved to be 2 up at half time, but. I don't think we could. I think we were probably a little fortunate for that goal, weren't we?
Yeah, I think we were a little fortunate, but like I said, I don't think on the balance of play, really, Portsmouth were massively deserving of a lead. They certainly didn't deserve to be in front by 2. And I mean, you look at Per Harris. I mean, he missed a big chance before that, really, didn't he? Which he didn't make any contact with, which was frustrating. But I mean, after that in the second half, we had an incredible amount of chances, really, didn't we? And a lot of them were good ones as well. Probably more chances than we've created all season, though. Certainly that level of quality in one half, isn't it?
Well, I think how many times we hit the woodwork in that phase of play just after half time. I know one or two were after the offside had gone, but we pummeled the goal. I think that their keeper made an absolute worldie, didn't they? Although Cullen probably gave him more of a chance than he should have had with it. And I think,
there was the Yom chance, wasn't there? The Bianchini chance.
Yeah, no,
obviously the one that we did take from Cullen.
The Bianchini one was a bit frustrating because it was a cracking ball through to him, wasn't it? And that's exactly the goal he scored against Oxford. And this one put a couple of yards wide. I think he looked a bit short of match fitness. He's come back a lot quicker than I think anyone expected. He probably hasn't played much in training, so to be expected he's going to be rusty. But there's a lot of games coming up, so just great to have him back, really. But he wasn't at his level of sharpness that you'd hope. I think a couple of chances fell to Key, didn't they? Who's probably not the most natural finisher, but he's getting forward well, which is good. And I think it's what we're coming back to, and what we said last time or earlier. There's the quality of a front line. We don't have the depth there. We short a couple, aren't we? We could do with a couple of higher level probably finishers, I think, or more creative players to create those chances. We obviously created a lot of chances on Saturday, but we only took one ourselves, didn't we? And I think that's probably been the story of the season. If we'd had a bit more quality up front to go along with our pretty good most of the time, apart from this week, defensive stability, then we'll probably be a good few places further up. But of what is probably a middling championship this season, it probably looks a bit lower quality compared to previous seasons in terms of strength and depth. So it's a bit frustrating from that perspective. I think it wouldn't have taken much for us to be just a little bit higher than where we are. But
yeah, I agree with that. I don't think the standard's anywhere near as good. I mean, I think I saw someone put a tweet out comparing this stage last year compared to this year, and I think the top two, for example, were about 6 points better off than what they are at this stage. So I think that says a lot. I don't think that it is anywhere near as the standard isn't as good as it was. So, as you say, I mean, a couple of players in January could really could make the difference. Really, I would think, and a lot of clubs are probably going to be thinking along the same lines, aren't they?
I was just thinking the same. Yeah, mate. I think we're not the only ones in this boat, and if history tells us anything, is that championship owners do love a bit of a gamble. So I can imagine there's probably 10 clubs who are thinking, oh, our ticket might be up this season. So yeah, no, that may factor into a lot of thinking. Probably drives the market up a little bit as well. But the opportunity's there, and I think. Yeah, I mean, it's rare this season that the relegated teams perform so poorly. Luton. I thought Luton I did think Luton would be better because I thought last season they treated the Premier League for what it was, an opportunity to get some money, strengthen the squad, and then they'll be in a better position when they come back down. But they've been atrocious. Burnley, I really thought Burnley were my pick to go up, and they don't look the best at the moment. I mean, they're getting some results, but they're not scoring a lot of goals, are they? Or winning a lot of games.
Well, that's the thing. You look at them, and you look at Sheffield United. They're the two that we've played so far. Obviously, we played Luton this weekend, but we lost to them both 1-0. But I mean, the gulf in class wasn't that big, was it?
It not certainly off the Burnley game. I think the Sheffield United one. I think they gave us a bit of a batter in the second half. I mean, but
in the first half, it wasn't, was it?
Oh, we mean that was the Perth Harris miss, wasn't it, in the first half?
Yeah.
And that was, and I think Tyman's volley to score for them, wasn't it? No, I think that first half we were the better team without apart from the Perth Harris chance, not massively threatening. Second half we said the better, but I mean the Burnley game there. I mean. One of the worst penalty decisions I've ever seen. I mean, how can you give that for handball? I've got no idea. And I know the handball rule is a bit, unclear at times, but that can't be a handball for me. It just can't be. So I think the Burnley one, we deserved to win. They didn't look particularly good, and if you look at their players, I wasn't overly impressed with their quality either. I mean, I'd say Leeds have a stronger squad than them, for example.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I think them. So yeah, I mean, I think the opportunities are there this season. The teams that come up from the Championship, I think Derby, we made them look world beaters for 70 minutes, but before then we made them look a League One team. Portsmouth again on the weekend, there's not much to them. Oxford are doing a lot better than anyone thought they would. So yeah, and I think the season before last, I think the teams that came up and the teams that came down from the Premier League were bigger clubs, a bit stronger. This year it's been quite a bit the opposite. So yeah, I think it's I wouldn't say it's missed opportunity. I think we're a solid B+ this season, I think, in fairness so far. But yeah, I don't think it'll take an awful lot to just push us up a little bit. I don't think the next level in this division isn't that hard to get to, I don't think.
No, I don't think it is either. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, really, because like a lot of clubs, as you say, will be thinking they could definitely get into the playoffs at least. So that's a big difference to last year, where it felt like there was a top four and then there were 2 spaces left. But even then, those 2 spaces, like, are you actually capable of knocking the others out in the playoffs? Because obviously 3rd and 4th then did end up in the playoff final anyway. So it really wasn't a year to take risks, I would say. Whereas I think this year might be. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. I mean, looking forward, as I said, we've got Luton the weekend, a team that have struggled. And obviously we've got Plymouth after that and Sunderland. I mean, how do you see that? I mean, what should we realistically be targeting? I mean, we've had 4 points from the last 3. I'd be thinking, are we looking at similar or should we be aiming a bit higher? I mean, Luton and Plymouth are 2 teams that are struggling. I mean, it's been speculated Wayne Rooney could be on his last legs at Plymouth, and that'd be typical if he was to go just before we play them. But I mean, obviously the home game we've got, which is Sunderland, you'd expect that to be a tougher one, wouldn't you? Because obviously they've been having a good season.
I think, I mean, 2 away games, Luton and Plymouth away, Sunderland at home. I think Sunderland probably one of the form teams in the division. I know they lost on the weekend, but narrowly. Right at the end. I mean, hopefully we can get 4 to 6 points out of that. Hopefully we can get 9, obviously. But away games, obviously first you hope we don't lose, but I think there's opportunities there to win for sure. Luton and Plymouth, both at the bottom end of the table. Plymouth haven't really kicked on since getting promoted. They've always been struggling at the bottom, haven't really strengthened their squad. Although they do have a goal scorer who used to play for us, which probably means one thing's going to happen.
Well, they've got 2 that used to play for us, haven't they?
Oh, yeah, God, I forgot with him. Yeah, okay, rightio. Yeah, write that one off. So it's, Obafemi.
Yeah, well, Whittaker's been injured. I don't know if Obafemi's been playing so much recently, but yeah, Whittaker's had an injury.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's good news. He's out until late December, according to this. So that's good news. So only Obafemi's going to score then. So that's good. Obafemi's not injured, Plymouth, we've obviously won there last season quite comfortably. You'd hope there. I think midweek games we seem to do all right away from home as well. So at least for a while. So no, I think we got to be targeting that one for a win. I think for the Luton game, I think the away end sold out if I heard correctly. So
yeah, it is.
Should be a good following for that. Whenever there's a good following, we usually do quite well. It's one of those grounds which is there's always a good atmosphere. That the stands are very close to the pitch, so they're very close to the away end as well. And we had a good usually have a good record against Luton down there. So not the games I go to, we always lose. So you'd be happy to know I'm not going on Saturday. Every reason to think we could pick up something from those 2 games, absolutely. And at home, I think are Leeds the first team to beat us apart from Millwall? I think it's only them 2, isn't it, this season? So we're strong at home. I think we generally do all right against the top teams this season. I think our style of play would probably suit playing against Sunderland. So no reason we can't get something from them. Absolutely, we should be targeting 3 wins if we can. But no reason to be optimistic based on our recent performances. I think no reason to think we can't take something.
Yeah, I mean,
often it's optimistic, but yeah.
Yeah, the way I'm trying to look at it is that obviously we've struggled for goals all season, and now in the last week we have managed to score 7. Yeah. So that is quite refreshing reading. I didn't see that coming, to be honest.
No, and I guess there may have been a subtle change in tactics, maybe pushing the fullbacks further forward, maybe playing a slightly higher line, which is probably coinciding with us conceding how many goals it was, 7 goals as well, wasn't it? So I think these 2 things are probably related a little bit. So maybe there'll be a bit of further tweaking, but hopefully you can tweak it so that we still have more of a goal threat, but we get a bit more defensive stability, because you can't try to outscore the other teams with our squad probably isn't going to turn out too well for us in the long term. But no, it's just it's good to have some more exciting games, isn't it? Because I think some of them earlier part of this season were a bit dull and dry, but you couldn't say that about this week. It's been non-stop, hasn't it? So fingers crossed that translates into next week as well. But I think the opposition's there for it. I think there's I think 2 of the weaker teams, and then playing against one of the top of the table teams. It's not mid-table either way, is it? So it's no every reason to think they'd be quite exciting.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, another week like the last one, with hopefully an extra few points on the board would be great, I think, wouldn't it? So right, I think we'll wrap it up here for this week. Andy, thanks as ever for joining me. I think we're unlikely to do one next week, purely because, again, with that midweek game, it does make it tricky to try and record a podcast and get it out. But I'm sure after the Sunderland game, I'll reconvene and hopefully have another guest on. And then we'll look forward to the away trip to Hull, and obviously the festive period, which always brings a lot of fixtures and quite often drama as well. So thank you very much for joining us as ever, and goodbye for now.